What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I thought I would do something kind of unique, kind of different. Talk about 4 things that I want to see from Scream 7. Now, these can be improvements or things that 5 and 6 didn't even do, but they could also just kind of be more of the same, focusing on the good elements that we've gotten so far from the cast and radio silence, and just doing it basically, again, kind of a mixture of those. If you guys do like this video, well, number 1, I suppose, leave a like. Number 2, I can definitely do more of these. These were 4 things that kind of just popped up in my head, but if this is a video that kind of hits, I'd love to do more of it. And I'm sure, looking at the time, we've got plenty of time to talk about Scream 7 because it seems like it's going to be a while away. All right, let's start with number 1, and this is not necessarily in order, like ranking it, but this is actually the first thing I thought of, so maybe it's the most important to me. More kills. And I guess you can elaborate on this. More kills would literally be the tagline of what this is, but not being afraid to kill, right? So we've talked about it before. You have such a huge cast. At this point, you have a gigantic cast that'd be coming back. Ideally, you'd hope so, right? Unless you leave some people out. Now, some characters you literally can't leave out. So you have like the core 4 and Danny. I mean, those 5 are locked in, right? Like no matter what you imagine, you'd have those 5 as long as Jenna Ortega, everything's okay with that filming schedule and whatnot. But then if you want to start to bring back again the OGs, whether it be, Sydney and Gale. Now, of course, I think you always try to do that. Kirby now, right? You got a lot of them. So not being afraid to kill, I do believe is important, but also just kills in general, not being afraid to kill off characters. You look at Scream 6, and I mean, it's been pointed out, and it's been pointed out pretty darn well. The kills are kind of all over the place, and because some characters have chases or just events, and they don't die, that messes with it a bit. So while I love the Gale thing, and also I guess I'm not advocating for every single chase or event in Scream 7 to end with a character death, but when some of the bigger events in Scream 6 is Quinn dying, but she doesn't, is the subway, which was a great atmospheric thing, but it resulted in no death. And in fact, it resulted in an attempt at a death that didn't happen. The Gale thing, nice, meaty, long chase. She finally got what she has been deserved of, this entire time, having this scene kind of just all to herself. She doesn't die. Now, again, I'm not saying you to kill Gale in that situation, but you used a lot of time for those things. Annika was like the biggest thing, and then you have like the ending. Like that was really, and obviously the beginning. That was the thing with Scream 6. Those were the kills of Scream 6. So definitely you need more kills. I think you need a little bit more consistency, and you also just cannot be afraid. I mean, we've hammered this home, I think, enough, but we'll say it again. You can't be afraid at this point to kill. I'm not saying Sydney, because I'd say no. I'm not saying Gale, because I think I'd also say no. But Kirby at this point, I think, should at least be on the chopping block where you consider it. And then the core 4 and Danny, I think you really look at them and say, okay, we got to eliminate like at least 2. At least 2 of those 5, I think, need to be taken out by the end of Scream 7 in order for this to like mean something. So that would be my number 1 thing. Number 2 is keeping up with I would say, what they've already done. So I'd say number 1 was more of an improvement, right? Like doing kills a little bit better, or just not being afraid, so improving upon it. Number 2, I'd say keeping the idea that the setting is very powerful. So I would again say you did really good. I mean, 5, like it was in Woodsboro, and we've been there before, but I think they did it very serviceably well. Besides like their jump from like day to night, which it seems like they can just never figure out how like time works, or how like little hours or how many hours have to change for like certain, like the sun to come out and whatnot. They've never been good at that in these 2 movies. But no, New York was a thing. And it's a thing that I constantly remember from the movie. And I guess you look back at the Scream franchise and those settings stand out, right? Like you think of Scream 2, you think of the college, and maybe you think of some specific like buildings or, kind of like more deep dive settings that they were in. But, you think of the college in general. Scream 1, obviously you think of just Woodsboro. And I mean, you do it for everything, right? So I think they've kept that tradition. I think they've done rather well with, just doing 5, pretty safe, but again, solid. And then 6, it felt different. Now, I don't know if you can always feel different, right? If the next place, if it's Hollywood, if it's a beach, if it's a ski resort, if it's, these kind of things, I don't know if you'll always get that same feel as New York. Now, you could say, well, do you do New York again? Like, would that ever work? there was talk. I mean, they've talked about it before that they would not say no, to the idea that, could New York ever reappear? They seem open to it. I don't think they would ever do it back to back, but I think it should be considered. And I think, again, the idea of what they did in 6, New York is great. New York is almost a character in itself, even though, and this is actually the beauty of it, it wasn't even New York. It was just Montreal. But, I mean, they did a really good job. So, again, that's something I think you keep. And I'm really interested like that. Besides, like, the returning cast, I would say, right, or just new cast that they announced, the setting. The setting is maybe even more something I'd be looking forward to than, like, the plot. I guess the plot, this small little synopsis, that would be pretty important. But tell me where it is, because I think that would be pretty cool, or that will be a cool thing that we all get to hear together. Number 3 is also a keeping up thing, right? Just keep doing what you're doing. The main characters, keep up the quality of the main characters. And now you could say, because they've not been consistent, okay? Is that fair to say? So in 5, everybody's got their own personal favorites, but let's just really quickly, in case you're new or you forgot, let's go over mine. So in 5, like, I thought Tara was a huge standout. Mindy stood out in her scenes, but then, like, Sam just wasn't, I think, strong enough, and she got stronger as the movie went on, and then Chad was basically non-existent, okay? Now, you fast forward to 6, I think you sacrifice some of the outliers. I think you also brought Tara down a bit. Not that she was bad, because I actually think she's still one of the better characters in these 2 movies. But Sam has now been elevated to, like, elite. I think Chad is also elite. Mindy, I really think, took some steps back, or maybe she just stayed the same, but, like, it's not amazing. And then Tara, I think, took a little bit step back. But, it depends on who you talk to. Again, this is just my opinion. Some people have never liked Tara. Some people have never liked Sam. I like where we're at generally with these 4, okay? That could be controversial because it doesn't speak to every Scream fan, but I think where we're at with the core 4 is good. The issue is, it took them a little while to get there. Now, maybe you could argue, like, that's just a thing with movies. Like, you need a little bit of time to get these characters developed. But I just hope that you would continue it. So whether that means you find ways to elevate some of the characters that have dropped a bit, maybe you help Mindy out a little bit, maybe you make Tara the best character again. But see, like, I don't want Sam dropping, because I think Sam is now elite. I don't want her falling. Chad, I don't want him taking some steps back where he's just not as important. Like, they're in a good spot, but they're also in kind of like a shaky spot, because it's like you've done a lot of really good things, but if you're trying to improve further, you may actually take some steps. Like, by taking a step forward, you take 2 steps back, like that kind of thing. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And again, their kind of inconsistency is what would worry me, because they haven't proven to be able to do it consistently. But yet again, it's the 3rd movie of their trilogy. You don't know what they would do with Sam. Maybe just the plot itself of whatever's happening would help a character like that out, and then you just do stuff with everybody else. It's complicated, I'm sure. I'm not a writer, but hopefully they do it. And then number 4, this may be the most important thing. I'm not sure. This is something you improve upon, is the killers. Okay, now, I actually had written this a little bit more specifically. I dumbed it down, and I made it a little bit more, like, ambiguous, for the reason that I think the more I think about it, they got to fix a couple things, okay, with the killers. Number 1, they have to make it less obvious. Now, like, it's easy sitting here in the corner of my living room talking to a camera to say, hey, we predicted the killers too easily twice in a row. You need to do better, okay? I understand how that sounds. But at the same time, it is what it is. This is too easy. We have done this now for the most part. I mean, we absolutely nailed it for 5. And also, they helped us out with, like, I think we could have predicted it, though, to be honest with you. And then in 6, they hit it a little bit better, but it was way more predictable. I would say it was even more predictable for 6 than for 5. So you got to do a better job, whether it is, I suppose, the trailers. I definitely think they took some steps in the right direction, so maybe don't even change that all that much, of hiding it, right, in the TV spots and the trailers and all that. At the same time, like, the Annika thing, it's like, I get the ladder, and I get wanting to show that because it's a huge set piece, but now you never suspect her at all because you know what's going to happen. So there's still room for improvement. Is that fair to say? There's still room they can improve with the lead up to Scream 7, okay? Then in the movie itself, you got to figure out a way to make it less obvious. Like in 5, Amber is so blatantly obvious. Like, I believe even if you didn't see the trailers and TV spots. How could you not see Amber coming? Okay. For 5, maybe Richie was hit, but he's kind of hidden in plain sight. He's in it so much. It's like, well, it probably is him, right? So I think Amber was very obvious just watching. And then in 6, I think Bailey and Ethan are immediates, like absolute immediate choices that, of course, they're Ghostface, right? They've got to do a better job. And, some of the easiest ways I would say, I talk about this with Ethan specifically, because I think with Richie, they did a little bit. With Ethan, they really leaned into it. The idea that you need to overcompensate. I've talked about this a lot. Like when Ethan goes, well, I was at Econ, and well, you can just ask everybody, and oh, I'm part of the friend group, and oh, I'm not the killer. Like when you just flat out deny these things out loud, sometimes things are better left unsaid. Okay, so he defended himself so much. It was obvious it was him. I really, truly believe that. And then Bailey, it's like, well, how can this not be happening without somebody of his power knowing about it? So that, and I guess, okay, here's another thing that you can fix. Stop making it where it can be a character that's obviously not. And this is a theme. We've talked about this directly. Let me say it here for a concise video. In 5, it was Tara. Now, it could have been Tara when you're like leading into the movie, but when you start to watch the movie and she gets obliterated in the beginning, and then you start to say, okay, she weighs like 80 pounds soaking wet, she's like 5'1", she almost died, and why would she have done that? Because nobody saw that. It was just her and the killer. So why would you go through that much pain to make it out that you're not the killer even though you are? Why would you even do that? So where am I going with this? Well, at the end of the movie, because there's 2 of them, right? So to make it not be Richie, because now it's Amber, you have to make it Tara. And it's like, okay, well, I don't fall for that. Sam almost fell for it, but she didn't, just like we didn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're kind of on the same page. We both didn't believe the BS that Richie said. Go to 6 now. Again, it's very obvious, at least to me, it's Ethan and Bailey, now Detective Bailey, right? Quinn maybe, caught some people off guard. I thought there was something going on there because you don't see her die on screen, so I was kind of on to her. But, okay, so you have that situation going on. Now, again, you get to the end of the movie. There's at least 2, and you probably think Ethan is 1. And you're also pretty heavily on Bailey. And then he says, well, Kirby's off her rocker, right? She's lost it. She's the killer. Literally, that's twice now, where Kirby being in, and it's a different situation. She was in 4, and yeah, I get you can change in 10 years. You absolutely can. You can almost become a different person. But you're not going to do it. You're just not, it's not going to happen. You are not going to bring back Hayden Panettiere and Kirby Reed. You're not going to bring her back to make her a low-key kind of killer. It's not going to happen. So again, and that's a theme. That's something that they've tried to do now twice in a row, where it's almost like they know it's so obvious that they need to throw out like a wild card character and try to convince the audience that it's them. And it's like, we're not buying it. So that's a big thing. And then I guess, is there anything else that you would improve from the killers? I mean, I liked 5's like monologue, and obviously I think it took a step back in 6. I don't think the motive was as good. People can get really, really hard against the ending of Scream 6. I get it, and you're free to have whatever opinion you want. I don't mind it. I definitely don't think it's like elite. I don't think any of those killers are elite. I think the monologue is one of the weakest, if not the weakest monologue of the entire series. So that's a big one for sure. But I would almost look at just make them hidden. Try your best. Also you have to think about, this is it. This could be it with the cast. This could be it with Radio Silence. Maybe it's not, but maybe it is. It's also the trilogy, though. It's the end of your trilogy. Whatever happens, whether Sam goes on a little arc or, whatever, you need to make this count. So please, if there's ever going to be a film that you hide and do the best job possible where you sincerely get us, where we do not see it coming, this would be the time. And again, I'm sitting in my corner of a living room where I'm not the writer. I'm not there on set. I get that's easy for me to say. But they're paid. They're paid money to do this, right? This is their franchise now. They need to step up. And that, I think is pretty darn important. So let me know what you guys think. I had a lot of fun with this. Hopefully you guys did too. Let me know what you think that maybe the movie needs. Maybe we can do a video on your comments, and we'll go from there, okay? Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.